Hey everyone, what's happening? Welcome to a fifth edition of MiCannaPulse. We're thrilled to be here today, and we have a couple great guests that are going to be joining us here soon that have some pretty exciting things to talk about. Robin Schneider from the MICIA and Rob Sims from Primitiv. We'll be getting into that in a little bit. What's going on with you, Anton?
Excited to be back, Harry. It's grinding away, right? I think we're on our fifth episode now, and a lot of interesting topics have been brought up. And I think that's what's really a cool part of doing these types of productions is getting to hear from leaders in the community, business owners, just in general, different perspectives of how this industry in Michigan is emerging. So it's just really fascinating to get the stories from everybody and collectively discuss how cannabis has made such an important impact in our lives.
Well, that was one of the things that really inspired, starting this is, we communicate in the Facebook group via our keyboard. We communicate via email. We communicate in other technological means, but we don't have, the one-on-one conversations diving deep into, the backstory, diving deep into what inspires and moves these companies and understand trying to connect with these people and their brands. I think that's something that you know is very important. Everyone loves a good story. Everyone loves a great comeback story. Everyone loves seeing good people succeed. And that's all we're trying to do. That's it. We're not trying to reinvent anything, but I think just bringing more awareness, having more conversation, having more dialogue, and um, talking about things that aren't talked about enough. Yeah, just having fun with this. I'm glad you're part of this journey. We're trying to figure this out. Trying to fly the plane as we're building the engine. But it's fun, man. It's fun. It's a lot of work, a lot more than I ever thought. But it's all meaningful work, and it's all part of the My Canna Pros and Me Connect Puff uh, you know and anything else that we'll hopefully build in the future. Um, so they all tie together. So we're just trying to be a one-stop shop of information and data, right?
This is this is a novel, if you will, evolutionary journey that we're on, right? This is a
It's
brand new
crazy.
industry, and being able to document the evolutionary process as it goes, the good, the bad, the ugly, I think is important to be able to document and have available for not only the Michigan space, but as for others, as this becomes more of a national, policy. We got decision makers that are starting to get more involved at the national level and at the state level. And I think that being able to have these conversations and provide these perspectives like in real time is important to do. So I'm glad we have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the industry. I wish we could do this more often than every 2 weeks. But perhaps maybe one day we'll do it, every week. Uh, it's you know, it's important to get information out and take information in. And, you know, we're just trying to do our small part in this industry, like we're
One cog in the wheel, right? The wheel's a big wheel. We're one cog of it. And I think that having information, the number one complaint I always hear from licensees when I say, like, what's your biggest complaint is lack of communication, be it whether with the government, be it with among other licensees, be it whatever level we're operating at is lack of communication. So I think being able to provide some clarity via these platforms is really providing a service that's not only necessary but crucial to allowing things to progress.
yeah. So just a reminder for everybody, Me Connect Puff is May 14th. Again, it's going to be in Detroit. Um, we have a ton of committed partners, which is extremely unusual for uh, this time uh, this time during the process, 5 months out. Um, I have a feeling that it's going to be, definitely our biggest and most effective show, and we're looking forward to the community showing up and showing out. But hit me up if you have any questions. Um, and with that, we're gonna just jump right into our first guest today, Robin Schneider.
The first partner we would like to highlight today is our wonderful friends and partners over at Community Choice Credit Union, who have proudly served Michigan since 1935. Their mission is to help neighbors achieve financial success through affordable, accessible solutions, whether you're opening your first account or planning for retirement. Community Choice is committed to serving the Michigan cannabis industry in many different aspects, including providing banking solutions and loans for commercial or personal use. For the last 6 years, Donna Bashi, Vice President of Business Development, who is a legend in the Michigan cannabis banking circles, has led their cannabis business program. They serve over 600 cannabis companies in the state of Michigan and have 25 locations to serve their growing customer base. Thank you, Community Choice Credit Union. Our next sponsor is from our friends over at Ganja Containers. Why is everyone switching to Ganja Containers? Simple. Child resistant certified packaging at direct import prices. Plus, real customer service from people who understand your business. Your packaging costs shouldn't destroy your margins. Ganja Containers delivers certified quality, competitive pricing, and personalized service. That's the Ganja Containers difference. Get at Josh Roberts for all of your Ganja container needs. Josh, we appreciate you.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Robin, and welcome back to the show. Thank you for being our first returning guest, this time in a little bit of a different format than before. Everyone always wants to hear from you and what you have to say, and you obviously are doing a lot these days. I think it's appropriate to call this segment the Robin Snyder Update. So it's always great seeing you.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you, Anton. It's nice to see both of you as well. I had such a good time on the last show.
It's nice to
Good,
see you
good.
as well, Robin. Been a long time. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, so before we get, we can get into whatever you might be able to share with the lawsuit and all the other things that you have going on. One thing that really stood out to me this past week was a very bold announcement that you guys made on your new collaboration with the Interchange
Mm,
on an event. And
mm.
I love me a good event. And when I heard the news, first I fell back in my chair, and then when I got up, I picked up the phone and called you, and right away, and I said, "What happened?" So tell us all about that, and all the other events or plans that you guys have going on.
Sure. So, the original interchange came to Michigan in 2022, I think it was, and we did a collab with them, and it was a great event. Our members loved it, and kind of over time, there was some kind of rebrand that took place, and essentially the original interchange organizers contacted me and some concerns, and shared with me that the original organizer had been fighting a very serious cancer, and that they were looking to come back to Michigan. He's fully recovered. They were looking to come back to Michigan and, wanted to do the collab with us. And what I could tell you is, we get approached by a lot of out of state event companies. We always have. And one of the things I've learned over the years is I need to be cautious with that. There's a lot of event companies that want to swoop into Michigan and make all the money they can and then leave and don't help with anything here, right? And so I've gotten a little protective of that. And in this situation, the owners of Interchange, they also own Marijuana Venture magazine, And they started this event in 2016. And after learning that, the cancer situation, I felt that the right thing to do was to support them in coming back. Um, but also learned that they wanted to give us 50% of event proceeds, to help us with whatever we needed for the industry. And that certainly caught my attention, because obviously we need more funding for the lawsuit if we're going to make it all the way to the Supreme Court. And so, to me, that was a way of them demonstrating that not only did they want to do business here, but they wanted to give back, to the community that they're doing business with. And I felt that that was a fair collab for the industry. And I thought that was a respectful way, to be approached. And I feel good about it. So yeah, we agreed to do the collab. And of course, with that being said, Harry, we're always going to support Meet Connect Puff, and we are thrilled that that's coming back in May 14th, right?
That's right. Yeah. And your
Okay,
event
so
is what, March
March 5th
26th?
and 25th and 26th. Yeah,
3 months out. Wow.
yeah, yeah. So,
And we're
yeah.
going to support you guys every step of the way also. So,
Good,
yeah,
good. Well, yeah, we're looking forward to having you there. But we will be at your event as well in full force. And I was actually shocked because, we decided to launch it quickly. We were going to wait until May, and then you booked yours, and I was like, let's have them come earlier so it doesn't interfere. We want to be good neighbors, of course, Harry. But
absolutely.
I also heard from our members of like, hey, we need something sooner to get in front of those retailers. They were like, we cannot wait till May.
Yeah.
And so I took that serious, and it's a packed event already. I can't even believe what happened in 1 week of announcement. So um, I'm not personally working on that. My, staff and the organizers of Interchange are handling that. I don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to deal with it, but they're doing a great job. I'm excited. I'll be there. I'll be at your event in May.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's hope for some warm weather. I know.
I know. I know. Well, I'm excited that they're on the fast track here of getting something out. I think this is probably going to be the first good real event of the year.
Mhm.
So no one really knows exactly how people are going to respond to participating in events, right?
Right.
With new budgets and closures and all that stuff. So, but
So
yeah,
this is the feedback I'm getting on that, with the strain on the industry, getting people all together under one roof is going to be imperative for sales.
absolutely.
Um, some companies don't have the money to, send their people all over the state, and the gas and the hotels and so I mean
Yeah.
it's a way to get everybody together for sales purposes, in a way that is streamlined. And I think both your event and the interchange will do that.
Yeah. Well, they're different formats, right?
Yep.
People
Yeah.
people like both, and
Hmm.
some people like the interchange format and more, and some people like the non our format more. So
Hmm. Yep.
it's a great balance. I think they're both well put together. Obviously, the
I
interchange is
had a
good.
blast at your last Meet Connect Puff. I
Yeah.
had a great time.
Thank you. Yeah, we're also, believe it or not, have had an incredible response.
Yeah.
Uh, Many of your members,
Hmm.
is included.
Hmm.
So we're thankful for that, and thankful for our relationship and our collaborative efforts. And obviously there's um, another similar event, right, that
Hmm.
is taking place in Michigan that is right before ours, similar to yours, I should say. So we'll see if there's, and they're planning on doing it twice a year. What are your plans in terms of how many times you
I
want to do?
haven't really talked to, that's their deal. I'm learning as we're going.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what else do you guys have going on in terms of events? I know you guys are, still doing your uh lobby days and your
Hmm.
luncheons and your summer annual. Is
Yeah.
that pretty much still going to be the same for this year for you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah. Same as we usually do. I think we're increasing the lobby days. Ever since the 24% tax was voted on, um, the industry has answered the call. They're showing up. I think that everybody didn't really believe that it could happen. I know that our lobbyist last year at the summer annual got up and was like, come on, guys, we got to do something just in case. And turned out he was right. you know,
Yeah.
and he had warned everyone, like, don't fall asleep. I think it's such a shocker that happened. I think now the business owners see we can be at the chopping block at any time and are not taking for granted building the relationships with lawmakers. So we're doing a lot of facilitating, scheduling meetings for our members to come to Lansing or in the district, encouraging them to go to the coffee hours, their lawmakers' coffee hours, and they're doing it. And I think that that's something that every business owner needs to just work right into their routine, permanently. So,
Robin, we saw like Michigan seems to be kind of a little bit behind the curve of other states like California and Oregon. And we saw California kind of go back and repeal some of their taxes to alleviate the stress on their industry. And read recently Oregon is in the process or has already done something similar.
mhm.
You know, what do you think was the disconnect that maybe had brought this on, and kind of how has the I mean, the warnings are out there that this is going to be an issue, and that we usually follow suit of a lot of these other markets, and kind of what was your what do you think about all that?
So I think that Michigan's budget in general is out of control. I think there's a lot of waste and abuse, as we've heard. Um, and some of the intel I have is they've been looking at, squeezing more money out of us for years and years, quietly. And this was just the year that the governor said it out loud. And so, I think that our state in general financially is in a lot of trouble. And I think that this is more a symptom of that. With that being said, we're working with Senator Lindsay. He's amazing. Um, he stood up for us on the Senate side. His whole caucus stood up for us. The Senate Republicans really took a stand against the tax as a whole, unit. But he immediately put in a bill request to repeal the tax. And, it's not that crazy to think it could happen. California's tax was only in place for 2 months before they were able to see the data and the damage being done in real time. And the legislature did an emergency repeal. I don't think it's crazy to think that we can't pull that off here. So, Senator Lindsay has a blue back right now, which means they are seeking co-sponsors. So anybody that wants to help with that effort, I would encourage you to reach out to your senator, ask them to support Senator Lindsay's bill to repeal the 24% tax on cannabis. We need to hit the ground running right now and get ahead of that effort and get it, get support for it, get all the good media attention on it, and support him in his effort to do that.
It amazes me with how bipartisan this really was on both sides of the spectrum. On one end, we have a government that they can't come to a consensus of feeding people and basic necessities of human care, but they rose to the occasion on a bipartisan effort to pass this tax. However, there was also Republicans and Democrats that came on the other side of the coin as well and supported this not going through. So it was this weird bipartisan effort on both sides, which
The
I
the
don't
two
think we've seen.
chambers were split. Yeah, the two chambers were split on this. And what I'll say about that is that, Republican values are typically, we don't single out one industry and hit them with a huge tax. They know the real damage that taxes do. Um, we did not see those Republican values in the House. And we saw those Republican values in the Senate. And what I'll say about that is that senators have been around longer, they're wiser, they're less afraid to take a stand on the issues that are important to them. And so I'm not surprised that it happened that way, because they're certainly the older, wiser, better decision makers than their younger counterparts.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, Robin just kind of hit it right on the head. I mean, it's um you're not getting, you're not getting the support that you're expecting, and then not as bipartisan as we all think. But
Mhm.
uh,
I
you
mean,
know,
we saw Senator Irwin fight for us. He really took a stand, but the rest of his caucus didn't. And I think that it's more common for the Democratic Party to be okay with tax hikes. I mean, that's the reality.
you're seeing national trends in other states like, Arizona and Massachusetts, where they're trying to reverse the adult use programs. How realistic is that? And could that happen in Michigan? Is that something?
Yes, I think it's a very serious threat. Um,
Is it led by the smart folks, Kevin Sabat and his
yes,
people?
yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's something we need to, and that's another reason why we need to continue making sure that everybody's building relationships with their lawmakers. We are seeing an effort across the country to repeal cannabis laws and all the work that we've done. And um, I think as an industry, we need to view that as a serious threat. And yes, they will eventually put their sights on Michigan. Yes, they have funding. And we need to stay on alert that at some point they will come and they will try to do that to us here.
What do you think with, the unique efforts that we have here with voter ballot initiatives that other states don't have? We always kind of had that, oh, the supermajority may protect us, do we still, I mean, I didn't think that this tax, the 24% tax, would have happened because of the MRTMA protections, but it did. And do you think we lost a little bit of that protection, or at least the I don't know, the values behind that protection as a state that we've held for so long?
So, we're early on in the lawsuit, right? I'll start there. We're very early in the process. And in my opinion, the textual language of MIRTMA is very clear. There is no tax between marijuana establishments. That is written right into the text of MIRTMA. So, with that being said, I believe that we, on a textual argument, have a very good shot at winning it in court. Um, but we have to work our way through, and we're getting ready for trial right now. I feel good about the evidence we have. I Sometimes lawsuits zigzag around, and that's kind of what we're seeing. And we gotta keep going all the way to the Supreme Court.
What happens if, like, when we talk about going to the Supreme Court, this could
Mhm.
take years potentially.
Yeah,
Is there's a long game here? Is there, we could have a Republican governor come next year that
yeah.
we
I mean,
could.
this is a multi-prong approach. This is a leave no stone unturned. It's push a repeal bill through the legislature. Um, Look at a legislative effort, continue the lawsuit, track the data, right? Demonstrate the job loss. I think there's a lot of um, monitor the growth of the illicit market. There's a lot of things that we have to do in this situation, and we're committed to covering all of that ground.
With the illicit market, you
Mhm,
brought up an interesting
mm,
point.
mhm,
That's usually what the politicians wanna tell us
mhm,
with whatever argument, the illicit market's always being brought up.
mm,
When we look at Michigan with the way the prices are so low
mhm,
in the regulated market, I mean, to run an illicit grow, just the electricity alone
mm.
is almost mind-boggling of how could it compete with the regulated market? So, is that really a valid argument, or what do we what do you thought?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of data that shows when you have a higher tax rate, that it reduces sales in the regulated market, and people will buy from their friends rather than from the regulated market. And I think that we're in the process of witnessing the beginning of that, which is why we have to monitor it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly some people will be leaving, the licensed market and hitting up their, local plug,
Mhm.
um, between,
What about all the employees who were caregivers who gave up their caregiving to come? I mean, what do you think they're going to do?
they can increase their prices now, right? Like,
Right.
so,
And legally, by the way, legally,
yeah,
that's not saying there's anything wrong with that.
yeah, I mean,
Mm.
the unregulated market, has always been around,
Mhm,
still is around, it will
mhm,
always be around, right?
mhm.
So there's no other industry that's impacted by, the unregulated market as much as cannabis.
But I think in Michigan, particularly, you have to keep in mind that this market was built by majority legacy operators.
Sure.
So if we're pushing the legacy operators back out, I mean, think about that.
Everybody has the opportunity to compete. Everyone
Mm,
has the opportunity to, create their own business and their
mhm.
own model and their own menu or whatever you want to call it. So no one's taken that right away from anybody. Which, speaking of which, our caregiver rights being threatened. What other bills, Senate or House, that are on that are being discussed right now are, you know, impacting both the caregiver and non-caregiver and the licensed industry that you can speak of, Robin.
So, as far as our organization, we've always taken the approach that leave the caregivers alone. They're not hurting anyone, and they're legally allowed to take care of their patients. It's in the law. What I will tell you is that I have spent plenty of time behind the scenes stopping bills from even getting introduced. Right. And, I don't get credit for that. That's fine. But when I have the opportunity to say, you don't want to do that, that's not going to be good for your political career.
Right.
Caregivers aren't hurting anybody, right? You're not, and don't say you're doing that for us because you're not. I had a lot of that stuff off, before it even becomes a thing.
5,300 was it that 5,300 package back in a couple of years back where
Ugh.
that
Yeah.
effort, yeah,
Yes. Of course, people are still trying to do stuff like that. Yeah.
and that showed a couple of things. It really stopped them in their tracks, but that was really cool to see how just everybody came together. It wasn't licensed and caregiver, it was all one kind of team, and
Yeah.
that was
It
fun,
was
and
the
that was
stupidest bill ever.
they tried, they really did try, but
Yeah.
when we're talking legislative efforts, one of the other issues when we talk about either black market or regulated market
Mm,
has been the hemp market. And I think
mm,
a lot of, you know, people don't even realize what was going on with the creation of hemp and then the conversion of that to oils and other types of
mhm.
products to kind of circumnavigate the regulated market. And now we're seeing both federal and state legislation and regulatory efforts kind of come together. Is a representative of the licensed industry. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to premise this with I'm a representative of the licensed cannabis industry. Okay. Not the hemp industry. And, it is in my members' best interest who have had to spend millions of dollars to follow all of these CRA rules, that everybody has to play by the same rules. So if somebody wants to sell THC products commercially, our position is they have to go through all of the same things that we've had to do. Um, I think that it's important to keep in mind that a lot of those hemp products, and I hear activists say, like, oh, let them have it. It's synthetic. It's not even marijuana. It's synthetic. It's not even naturally occurring from the cannabis plant. It's a chemical reaction made by a scientist in a lab. There's no reason to do that when we have a naturally occurring, you know, uh, THC that we know for years and years that it is safe. Why are we trying to introduce synthetic products into the market that, have different kinds of side effects that research is showing impacts the brain differently? I don't think that's a road that we should be going down.
100% THC with a
Mhm.
THCP and THC, all these
HHC, whatever. Yeah.
HH, these
Yeah.
cannabinoids that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not gonna find naturally occurring, and they are
Right.
impacting, making people sick and whatnot,
Yes. Yes.
and there's no research
And
because we've never seen them.
correct. And so, yes, I mean, I think that the responsible thing to do, and anybody who claims to be a consumer advocate who is advocating for those products, I think they're nuts.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's I'm glad that both state and federal are kind of putting their foot down on this. You know it's not fair. It's not fair to the
Mhm.
licensed community, the
Mhm.
licensed cannabis community.
Hundreds of millions of products bypassing my members'
Yep.
businesses and our tax revenue.
And then you can just go to a gas station and anybody, kids, anybody can go buy
Mhm.
gummies, and it's crazy.
And
Mhm.
Uh,
that's what harms the license industry, though,
Oh yeah,
because
we get
then
blamed for it. Do you guys remember when like Detroit Public Schools put out like sent something to the governor and put out a press release and was like they need to redo all of their packaging, and I took one look and was like none of that is ours. That's all hemp. What are you guys doing? We got attacked for it.
you get a bag of Sour Patch Kids, and I didn't know any better, and I had gone to eat them. I'd be pretty angry if I didn't know what it was, or if I'd accidentally picked up the wrong package. There's a reason why we have all these regulations in place. So
Mhm. Mhm.
what else is going on with the MICIA? You guys are about 4 or 5 months or so into your new board and chairs. What are some of the accomplishments you guys have had so far? What does 2026 look like?
I love my new board.
I know you do.
They're
So do
they're
I.
amazing. I do. I love my new board. They're amazing. I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Raymond and Sam have been really strong leaders. They balance each other out. Um, I have board members who of all different, aspects of the industry. They disagree, they debate, they find middle ground, they listen to the members. I mean, it's really nice to have a very active board. And so I'm grateful for that. They come to Lansing when I need them to, um, actively participating. So that's what I needed, and I'm grateful to all of them.
Awesome. That's really, I think that kind of takes us, past. We're actually past our time limit, so we appreciate you being on the show, Robin. Thanks again for all your insight and your wisdom and knowledge. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing you. I think we might have to carve out a little segment, every so often on our show for you. So, um,
Yes,
we'll be seeing
next
you
show
again.
we can get into some of the other legislation we're working on.
Absolutely.
love having you on,
I did,
Robin.
yeah,
Always
thank
nice
you.
to see you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Our next sponsor is where our very own Harry Barish practices cannabis brokerage. C3 Commercial Real Estate. In a fast paced and evolving cannabis real estate market, staying ahead requires more than just tracking market trends and utilizing data analytics. It requires a unique combination of agility, creativity, and foresight. At C3 Commercial Real Estate, they possess these qualities and more, offering a comprehensive range of real estate services to help you enhance the value of your investment and business portfolio. With their in depth understanding of financial and geographic markets, and their ability to decipher the socioeconomic and political factors that shape them, they ensure that you are well prepared to overcome industry challenges and seize new opportunities. Thank you, C3 Commercial Real Estate.
I'm pleased to introduce our next special guest here. Today we have Rob Sims, former Detroit Lion, carved out a respectable NFL career as an offensive lineman, spending 6 seasons with our beloved Lions from 2006 to 2011 in the Seattle Seahawks. After being selected in the fourth round of the 2006 draft out of Ohio State. It was hard for me to say that.
The
Where he was part of the Buckeyes 2002 national championship team. Following his retirement from professional football, Rob transitioned into Michigan's burgeoning cannabis industry, joining Primitiv Group, a premium vertical cannabis company, where he has worked to build community connections and advocate for responsible industry practices. As a prominent voice in Michigan's cannabis space, Rob has been particularly vocal about ensuring that communities disappropriately affected by past cannabis prohibition, particularly Black and Brown communities, have meaningful access to ownership opportunities in the licensed industry. His advocacy work extends beyond Michigan interest, and he's championed criminal justice reform and expungement initiatives for those with prior marijuana convictions, understanding firsthand how the war on drugs decimated communities across Michigan. Rob represents a number of former professional athletes with Detroit ties that are actively involved with their companies and are working to reshape the industry into one that repairs some of the damage caused by decades of failed drug policy. Rob, it's always great to see you and chopping it up. We
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you taking the time being on MiCannaPulse. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Harry, long time, bro. Good
It's
seeing you.
been a minute. It's been a minute.
Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so you went from grinding it out in the trenches as a offensive lineman to navigating the trenches in Michigan's cannabis industry. What parallels do you see between playing the highest level in the NFL to being a successful operation in this rapidly evolving market?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best analogy is, we used to have this saying in the NFL. It was, "What have you done for me lately?" I think us as players always thought there will be some plateau we get to where we're solidified and we're there, and we have nothing to worry about. But when you get to the NFL, you realize very much so. No, you got to continue to put that work in every single year to be able to earn your right to be on the team. And I think when you look at Michigan and Michigan's cannabis industry, it's been no different. Every single year, there's new hurdles. Every single year, there is a new bar that has been set that we have to go reach. And yeah, man, it's been we've been doing this since 2018, and when I look back on it, the real fruit of what we've done is figure out a way to stick around and keep on just being able to keep answering the bell. So new challenges this year, and we gotta square our shoulders and go back to work.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, there's no time to sleep on anything, right? You got to grind and you got to keep pushing, and every year you got to work even harder to stay on top. So, all facts, and hear what you're saying there. So let's talk about Primitive's approach to the Michigan market. You guys have been around since 2018, one of the OGs, on the licensed market. What sets you guys apart? What are you guys doing differently, and how do you differentiate yourselves both from a brand perspective and a retailer perspective and maintain that premium experience?
Yeah, I think like everybody else, when you just talk X's and O's or business strategy, right? All of us were R&Ding for for a long time, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work, how to get more customers, how to get more looks, impressions, all that, right? I think if anybody came and said, what did you do different? I think we just figured out a way to keep on moving and persevering and keep going back to the drawing board. But I think what we did that really set us apart was we focused on our culture, we focused on our people. Me and Calvin coming out of the league, even though one of us was a Hall of Famer and the other one was, played at a high level, we weren't necessarily winners when you look at what we were able to do with the team, right? And as a team, right? Individuals, we had some accolades and did some really cool things, but never won as a team. I think us being on the Lions, right? We saw those different holes we had at the time, and we were able to correct those things as we left the NFL into business and focus on those things first. And we've been able to put a lot of people on over the years, right? There's people that started off with us at $13 an hour that are now making really good money as general managers. So I think those are our success stories. We focused on the people and let some people win, and that propelled us, man. We got a lot of loyal team members. They're not employees in our space; they're team members, and we've been able to keep moving. And every time I'm at our dispensary, all I hear is, "Man, we come back because of your people." And I think that's a testament to how we positioned ourselves.
Rob, you mentioned a really good point that what makes the brand is the team and the team building and the loyalty and the respect for each other. And That's something that just doesn't happen. That's not, that has to be, organic in a way to create a sustainable brand, especially in this market. And you had mentioned that, the hurdles that we're facing, with, the as the market matures here in Michigan. Obviously, this 24% tax that's now been added to the wholesale prices has been a big topic of conversation in Michigan, and how I haven't talked to anybody yet that doesn't believe it's a disadvantage to an emerging industry that really, at the end of the day, does a lot for the community and adds a lot of money to our economy. So, what are your thoughts? How are you navigating this, and how do you think this is going to unfold?
Yeah, I think like everybody else, right? This is one of the only hurdles Primitive has had where everybody's in the same boat, right? It's just not us in the same boat as everybody's got to figure this out. I think everybody's trying different things, right? I think sometimes that's making people close ranks, not spend as much, things like that, different strategies. People just trying to throw it out there and figure it out, not saying it's going to work or not work. So I think we're all trying to figure out how do we all coexist with this new 24% tax. What does that look like? How do I keep my customers happy with this 24% tax? How is raising the price um, at the retail level really going to benefit our customers as far as bringing in customers into Michigan? Us being at a border town, obviously that's big for us, right? Because we get a lot of our business from out of state. So, pieces like Monroe and New Baltimore and all those places have to relook at things and relook at strategy. So, I mean, it's definitely a big thing in a society. It doesn't help that we start the 24% tax when we got blizzards outside either. So it's been rough, man. It's been
Yeah,
rough
oh, yeah,
month.
yeah.
Uh,
You guys went from, being a Michigan um, born company, and on July 5th, 2023, you guys became a multi-state operator with the opening of the Primitive dispensary in Boston, Massachusetts. How is it operating a store in Massachusetts versus Michigan, with one state having the lowest prices in the country, and uh, the other state probably being the most aggressive state in spending money to try and reverse the recreational program, which looks like it'll have enough signatures to go on the ballot. Um, and do you have plans in expanding in either these two markets and or any other markets?
Yeah, I mean that was always our plan. I think big picture, right? The one thing that we have, right, obviously, is our network, and we were able to start the Boston store with Geyser Shirless, another first-round draft pick of the Lions. We were able to learn a lot. And once again, right, we're all former teammates that are trying to coexist as business owners, right? So it already has its uphill battle in certain places, right? It has its advantages too. But I think the one thing that we've been able to do is learn and in the Boston store. It's a totally different market. We understand in that market, right? We can't take everything we took in Michigan and just pop it in Massachusetts and think everything's going to go well. But so back to what we rely on is the people, right? That's the one thing we can take anywhere. The way we treat people, the way we encourage people, the way we put people in position to win. And ultimately, I believe as we keep going, right, the data we're gaining from Michigan, the data that we're gaining from Massachusetts, it puts us in a position to not only show up as the guys that have platforms and a Hall of Famer and a first round draft pick and can go get another player in that wherever we're at, but it's also going to have a plan that comes with it. So I think that's what we've been doing, by intentionally and unintentionally, right? By just continuing to state that what we know, continue to collect data, continue to refine the plan. And I feel like, one day, whenever that day is, we're going to be ready to push forward and do it the right way and just not throw anything out there, right? Put a great product out that's been able to keep us here for years.
You and Calvin are obviously still very, very active in the industry. You guys not only spend a lot of time at your stores, but you guys are spending time at other stores promoting your brand. You guys have been board members with the MICIA for a while, if not since the inception. There's a lot going on with the MICIA right now, and there's a bunch of new board members and chairs. What are you seeing from your seat on what's taking place over there, and the impact that the new board is making?
Yeah, I think like anything else in cannabis, right? The one thing that we have to continue to do is to do put the work in every single day and be consistent, right? And I think in my CIA, right, it built itself up, and we got to a place where there was a lot of great things going on, but there needed to be a little reshuffle at the board member seat, right? And I think me and Calvin, right, we had a platform to that, right? But bringing in some of the other players that could really speak to what was going on. Some of the multi-store owners, some folks like that, I think have done nothing but great things for us, right? Because the thing I look at the association, right, the more vantage points you have, hopefully on the other end of that, you come out with direction that you need for a market, not just one person. Right. And I think, or one company. And I think that's the one thing that Robin Schneider has done a great job doing. She's continued to reinvent herself. She's taking shots when she didn't need to take shots. She's taking them when she did. And you know, that kind of accountability is always great for an association or a team or a company or whatever it is. And I think just continuing to reinvent yourself like we all have to in this business, right? There is no common ground. We are looking for what's next and how to survive.
Got to stay fresh, gotta keep pivoting. That's the key to this industry because it changes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Rob, we have it's interesting because we have the business side of the cannabis industry, which is obviously an integral part of its success. But we also have that spirit of the plant and the culture surrounded by the plant. Myself as a veteran, in my community, cannabis is extremely important. As a combat vet for a multitude of different ailments, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, several elements similar to what you would find within NFL players.
Mm.
And cannabis has been a hot topic of conversation within professional sports for a long time. But yourself and other athletes who have paved the road for making this more acceptable and lessening the stigma, as far as like pain management and just the severity of injuries that were normally treated with things such as opiates that we're not seeing anymore, or as heavily used, I guess I should say. uh,
Mhm.
what is your approach? What are your thoughts? How are you educating the public? How are you educating your fellow players and managers and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing you just mentioned, right, is when you talk about community and cannabis community, right, there's different segments of the community, right? Your segment was in being military and how to cope with after being in the military or whatever that may be. You've got our just normal cannabis culture that everybody sees every day, billboards and all that kind of stuff, and just the culture, music, all that. And professional sports is interesting because it's the one place where narcotics, other type of drugs like that were so easy to get, right? It's outside of the norm of what people could usually get. And to me, cannabis is changing that for the good. I'm a second generation NFL kid. My dad played for the Browns. My wife's father played for the Dolphins. So we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the league, right? I know what it will look like when I'm 70, right? Right? I know what I have to deal with. And the fact that I have been able to medicate myself and done preventative measures and lost 75 pounds and can play with my kids and function as a business owner and all these and manifest all these things that cannabis to me has allowed me to do, opposed to something else that would potentially derail that. Right. So when I look at cannabis, I scream from a different place of this was the thing that helped me get through. Right. Not the place that I got high with my buddies and was cool. Right. So I think that's the thing. Right. I'm telling another type of story, not, that everybody can benefit from, but especially people that's in my peer group. Hey man, you need this to be a better man, be a better father, be a better role model, need all these things. And you can do it in a certain way where you can still have all those things. You don't have to lose any of it because of a plant. So our first thing in our mission core, our vision, mission, core values is we want to change the stigma. That's what we're here to do. And I think me and Calvin have done a good job doing that.
100%. I agree with you. And I think that your approach is That's what's breaking the stigma is, and that's how my story goes too, is I was able to get off of a multitude of narcotics and all kinds of nasty medications that improved my quality of life, and they make you the better father, they make you a better man, make you a better community member, and really at the end of the day, I believe that's community, right? And we're not, um, we're treating it in a way with respect, not only on the business angle of things, but really the health angle when we're still fighting prohibitionists every day. So I appreciate all your work. One of the other things, so back to the kind of the business angle of things, what is the approach now that it's the market's rapidly evolving, right? With this tax and just consolidations and businesses coming up, businesses going under. Have you guys changed your approach and how you plan on serving Michigan, or has it pretty much remained steady with between the business and the team that you've built?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same goals. We have the same thing. You know, we see ourselves as being in Michigan having one or two more retail operations, staying small with our grow, and elevating that to a premier craft brand. You know, those are our goals, and I think with our our team is to continue to. You know, we always say just don't cultivate people. We cultivate. I mean, cultivate plants. We cultivate people. Right. So we're staying true to that and doing that. Right. Unfortunately, the business at times forces us to say bye to people. I mean, that's just what the business piece says it. But like I said, those people are always in our hearts. Those people always stay with us, right? We always, the phone is always open to them, and yeah, we just continue to evolve in that manner. But our goals and our overall arching goals are still there, right, for what we want to do, and we just keep marching towards that. And my my prayer is that just like any other prayer, right? You ask for it, it don't come that day, it come when it's supposed to come. So we're just continuing to wait on that day, and as long as we can stand the fight, and keep doing what we're doing, we'll see it happen.
Perseverance, I love it. That is the one thing that a lot of businesses don't necessarily have, and I think that's the type of branding that really not only breeds loyalty within a business, but within your customer base. Harry, what do you have?
Um, yeah, I'm curious. You people associate you with the cannabis industry. I'm sure that's not all you're doing. You know, um, what other projects do you have going on outside of cannabis? What else are you doing outside of cannabis that's keeping you busy? What else is going on in your non-cannabis life?
Yeah, I say non-cannabis life. You know, I've got some things that I'm working on. I've got this cool little jar thing I'm working with a guy right now from high school. That's been kind of fun, and it's kind of got some mixes in the cannabis industry. We've been using it, so my shout out to Jeremy Williams at Canna Creepers. So we've been kind of using that and having fun with that. And and obviously you guys see my post about my daughter and volleyball.
It's a
Um,
full-time job right there.
Full-time job, man, and I'm telling you, youth volleyball is the craziest thing. It's better than the playoffs. I say that all the time. It's better than the playoffs. And I mean, so really just watching my young athletes, my young men and women, my children grow into their teens, and trying to really be there and focus on them. And me and I say things to my daughter and my son, and my daughters and son, that I stay to my group in Primitive. So all the all the messages still remain true, and it's just me, putting it in different contexts for them. And really, man, I'm trying to enjoy myself, right? As you guys know, man, cannabis is tough. Every day is tough. In and out of it is tough. Um, Hard work. But my wife always reminds me, Rob, you got to stop and smell the roses too. And yeah, that's one thing I was never really that great at. Right, I was always on to the next, and what do I have to do get to this level and all this kind of stuff. And man, I'm 42 years old now. You know what I mean? Like, hey, take a breath and look around at what you've built as a professional athlete. You came out, you're a cannabis entrepreneur. You have three beautiful children, a wife. Like, I've done some really awesome things in my life, and looking forward to the next half of that, and continuing that. But smelling the roses as well. You know what I mean? I think that's important, that we got to do that as owners in this space, man. We have to thank God that we made it this far. and stay on our path.
For sure. And
Work-life balance.
you can't ever relive the, you only get one chance to watch your kids grow.
That's it.
And, you can't, you can't take it for granted. And, if you're in a position to be able to enjoy that time, I mean, you definitely gotta take advantage of it. So,
Yep.
um, I have a 9-year-old son that plays 3 sports, and I try not to miss anything. And we value all these special moments with our kids. So, shout out, much respect for you to prioritize family and over everything, right? As the way it should be.
Yep. Absolutely.
Those are lessons that, I've learned that you can only see later in life. I was like you as well. I was grinding. I wanted to get to where I needed to go. And I did, right? And I'm about to turn 44, so I'm kind of in the same boat. And I'm retired myself. So
Mhm.
I get, the lessons of today that we value that we're all talking about. I feel like it's through experience. And when you're younger, yeah, you may not always learn as easily. So
No, sir.
one of the other things that within the cannabis space, when we all voted for the MRTMA, is social equity, and I know that that's a passion of yours, and it's become a buzzword in cannabis, and you have folks who have been more vocal than others. And but I believe like your message kind of took it a step further and highlighted the importance of ownership within the industry, and spreading uh, spreading the wealth, so to speak, to black and brown communities, and to communities that were just ravaged by the war on drugs. And what, like, has your view evolved since when you initially got into cannabis, or kind of where do you stand on the topic, and now that it's been a few years since this has
Mm.
been a thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's always interesting when you go back to like hurdles. Me and Calvin being, we got denied when we first went in 2018 to get our cannabis license, right? That's the first and foremost, right? So, if I'm
Right.
one of our finest, Calvin Johnson, one of our best philanthropists, one of our sons of the city, our Hall of Famer, our champion, all of those things, and he was denied. Imagine for the black and brown person down the street, right? So, um, we had our fight to get in, and me knowing that, I know that a lot of other people don't get the chances that we get. So it's tough. I don't want to see anybody just get an opportunity to come in there and lose all their money, lose what they're doing. I don't want that. I want it to be set up the right way for them to be able to maintain and build and do all the stuff that this is. Um, but even to get to that point and to really mentor them with that, they got to have an opportunity. And I think, how dare me not, get in and fight my way in and not say to somebody like, not say and scream from the rooftops. How do we not let more people have the opportunity? It's not that many black and brown folks in here to begin with. And the ones that are here are fighting like hell to keep it. Right. So I think, yeah, like that's not just one person's industry, that's in every industry. But me being somebody that's in it, and somebody that should be an advocate for it, I should be. I got to be able to say that and push towards that and try to do things to help. You know what I mean? I can't give everybody a business, and I want folks to be owners, but if I don't have that to give, best believe, I can hire some GMs. I can hire some people in those positions that are worthy and have continued to work their way up. And like I said, that's just not giving them a handout. That's because they're deserving. And that's the thing we kind of stay with, man. Like no system will ever be perfect. It's like college football playoffs. Ain't everybody gonna be happy, right? James Madison may get in, right? But in the end of the day, it gave us an opportunity to see who the champion, the real champion, was going to be this year, right? It gave us what we wanted. So I think that's it, man. We just opportunities are what should be given if they can be. And then on the flip side of that, when we get those opportunities, we got to be ready to take advantage of them.
100%. Do you feel like the resources that have become available since this has become a little more of a mature market have gotten better, or do you feel like a lot of the actual social equity i- distribution, if you will, is being done by the industry participants itself.
Yeah, I feel like they've gotten better. You see more options. I think it's still cannabis though, right? It's still like, for a bank and for other people to get involved, it's still a lot of unknown. It's still like not a lot of education around it. You can get traffic, people come by, but what I mean, you've got, you're dealing with taxes from the government, 280E and all this kind of stuff. So it's very much still it's tough to get people in and get people involved. It's especially harder now than now people have pulled back the curtain and seen what the industry really is. And it's not this glitz and glamour and everybody becomes rich. Right. It is work and it's a new industry and one that we got to grind in. And so it is difficult. They've gotten better, but we still got a long way to go.
Long way, but I appreciate your work. Harry, what else do you have?
You know, you're a man of faith. You make that pretty clear, for those people that are following you. Um, and how much does your faith play in your life, both personally and professionally right now? This is not really a topic that we talk about much, in cannabis. But me also being a man of faith, I can appreciate and respect, your faith.
Yeah, man, I so appreciate that question because that's the one thing I never want to get lost in what I'm doing. Um, I am a very firm believer that I don't deserve anything that I've had in this life. I'm a very firm believer that's been given. It's been a blessing to me. I've had more opportunities than most, and done some things that millions of people would love to do, but I had the opportunity to do it, and I'm thankful for that. And then I'm able to transfer that in the cannabis industry. The rules are even harder, right? And I'm still here. So without God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I don't know how I would be here. I just really don't know. Like I'm not that good. I'm not that smart. I'm not any of those things. What I am is I try to be consistent and I try to be fair to people. And I try to, like maybe different than other business owners, I try to put the other person first. Right. And I think me always trying to make sure I'm making sure that I'm looking and making sure Cal is going in the right direction, just like I was making sure that defender stayed off of Matthew Stafford. That's my job, right? And that's my role. And I'm good with that role, but the fact that God allows me to do all these things, attempt to do them the right way, I'm thankful for that. I mean, everybody may not see it like that. I'm sure I get some dirty looks sometimes from from church members and all kind of folks, right? When they just don't understand. And I always think, I always think like this: if you come a little closer, just like you identified that, you'll see something different, and that's because of my faith, and that's because of what I believe. And if you're not in the industry without faith, I don't know how you're surviving. Yeah. I need the good Lord every single day to remind me that, hey, look, He's in control. I'm not.
Amen to that, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, in a world right now where faith is kind of made mocked. We have to stay true, and we have to stay on the path, and believe now more than ever.
Mhm.
So I respect um, your position on that, and value it very much. So and uh, it's not easy, right? Because being faithful and trusting the process when things aren't always working to your benefit, you can easily lose faith. But you know, faith is you know something like we talked about earlier. It can happen later. Doesn't It's not going to always happen right now. So, um, you know, in closing here, looking, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, what does, success look like for you personally in this industry? And, what does, true equitable Michigan cannabis, the market look like for this community?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big question. I mean, I would think, really speaking, I would see success as we navigated this 24%. We're hitting very similar numbers to where we are. I would I would think that President Trump's executive order continues to push opportunities for us from a more national level. That and we've always tried to build certain things like primitive performance for the time when those days happen, right? Trying to be in front of a little bit, and we've done that. So just more freedom, right? And I think in 2 or 3 years, if we have more freedom, you know what I mean. If we can deduct certain things, if we can, if the 24% hasn't killed everybody, you know what I mean. Like we then that will be success for us at the moment, right? And talking about the long game, like you know, it's a long game. You know,
Absolutely.
we gotta keep grinding and like you said, see what the good Lord has for us. But for 2 or 3 years from now, continued progress, Primitive to have another shop at least, another dispensary at least, and yeah, just continued motion.
Let's talk a little football for 1 second before we end it. How much of Calvin's success were you responsible for helping block and giving Matt Stafford enough time to get him the ball?
Well, I mean, you want to get into that. I mean, that's a long, 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 long,
We got
long.
to talk a little bit of Lions. Are you still enjoying watching football these days?
Oh
And
man,
what do you think about our beloved Lions these days?
I definitely love the Lions. To finish up on your last question, I always told Calvin when we were playing, I said, man, I can't wait till we go to the Hall of Fame, bro. I can't wait till we go.
Right? You guys are a package deal.
Yeah, and then I mean, so if blocking for Calvin, that yellow jacket he's had, I probably got like a little thread down there, right? That's all I deserve.
Right on, right on.
He was unreal. But the Lions, obviously not what the year we wanted to have this year. I still have confidence in what they built there. Brad Holmes and what Dan has done I think has been great. Um, you know, the window is real. You got to strike when iron's hot, and we missed that 2 years ago. But I also know you can rebuild.
Yeah,
And right here we are with the Patriots going to the Super Bowl with no Tom Brady and no Bill Belichick.
right.
So I think we've got to just continue to just keep pressing, man. We've got fun Lions football right now. We should be enjoying it. And you know what I mean. Fingers crossed. We'll see what we get. You know what I mean. But there's opportunities there. There's
For
opportunities.
sure. Rob, I want to thank you again for your time and sharing your story and your journey with us. We wish you nothing but the best in the future. We hope Primitive will be showing up and showing out at our next Me Connect Puff event on May 14th. Hope to have the gang there. Consider this a personal invitation. So we appreciate you. We'll see you down the road.
We
Sounds good.
appreciate you. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Rob.